Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Total Football Talk, and we're going to look at all the latest news and transfer news coming out of Manchester United. And as always, we have plenty. Well, it's more interesting news rather than it being kind of in-depth, detailed and very structured news on all the signings at the minute. There's just little kind of stories floating around here and there that are of definite interest to us, but we'll just have to see whether they actually go anywhere. And we'll look at what's being said about Manchester United being linked with a new goalkeeper but in terms of Donnarumma from Paris Saint-Germain, which is an interesting story. There's a little bit on Jadon Sancho, Rasmus Højlund, Gyökeres, and a couple of other little bits in there too. So we will look at the top stories. The one that's doing the rounds at the minute is that Manchester United are being linked with Donnarumma. And why is this the case? Well, apparently Donnarumma is looking for, I think he's into the last year of his contract. He's obviously just won the Champions League. He's just done a treble with Paris Saint-Germain. He has stated before that he would like to come to the Premier League. And this is the story. Man City and Manchester United have expressed interest in the Paris Saint-Germain goalkeeper Donnarumma. Both clubs are tempting him to the point where the possibility of a move to England has been discussed in recent days. Now, do you believe that story? Because it's not that I don't believe the story, it's just that I don't believe he's coming to Manchester United. Donnarumma is an excellent goalkeeper. He's probably one of the best in the world, especially in a couple of those games for Paris Saint-Germain on the way to the final. He was absolutely sensational, particularly in the semi-final and the quarter-final. He had some unbelievable games. He's a brilliant goalkeeper. He has gone through a bit of a tough time. People do forget that Donnarumma, he is still very, very young goalkeeper. I believe he's only 26. And as a goalkeeper, 24, 26, I think. As a goalkeeper, that is really, really young at this stage. Goalkeepers don't hit their prime until they're kind of maybe sort of late 20s, early 30s. So he has obviously come a long way. He has won quite a lot already in his career. He's looking for a new contract. But for me, I believe this is a case of the agent is using Manchester United and Manchester City's name out there as a kind of stick to kind of, beat Paris Saint-Germain with, to say, look, these clubs are looking for him. We want the contract that we want a certain amount of money. Now, I don't think Manchester United would go. I'm not entirely sure of the money that he's on. I'm not entirely sure of the money that he's looking for. But Paris Saint-Germain are a very wealthy club. I can imagine he's on a decent contract at the minute. I can imagine if he's looking to up his contract, I don't think Manchester United would be looking to entertain any type of contract that he would be looking for at this present time. As I said, he is someone who does want to come and play in the Premier League. He may well come and play in the Premier League at some stage. But I don't think it'll be for Manchester United. Maybe Manchester City could go for him. They've already spent a lot of money this summer, or they're about to. They're in the throes of it, and they will be looking for a new goalkeeper, because I believe that Edison could be leaving over the next kind of year or two. So they will be looking for a replacement for that. So he could well go to Manchester City because they can't afford him and they're in a position to buy him and pay him probably the wages that he's probably looking for. But I don't think for me, obviously, he's much better than Onana. He's one of the top goalkeepers in the world at the minute. He is still very, very young. He's got tons of experience. He's won the Euros. He's won the Champions League. He's won, leagues in France. So he has got a lot of sort of, he's got a lot of sort of stuff to back up his CV for such a young goalkeeper. And I would definitely have him over Onana. I would have most people over Onana. So obviously, what I would like to ask you people out there, who would you rather have? Because we've obviously been linked with Emi Martinez from Aston Villa and Donnarumma from Paris Saint-Germain. If you had the choice, who would you prefer out there? Would you prefer Donnarumma or Emilia Martinez from Aston Villa? Get your comments in below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. So that's where we are with these stories. As I said, I don't think there's anything in this, so I'm not really going to stay on it. Now, this is another interesting story that was coming out, that Manchester United are reportedly considering a move to sign Joao Palhinha, and he could be available for 25 million. I've also heard that there is the potential that we could bring him in on loan. Now, he used to play for Fulham, and I thought he was an excellent player for Fulham. He broke up the play. He's a real kind of ball-winning midfielder, very energetic, gets around the pitch. He is going to be 29 now when he comes back to the Premier League, if it is the Premier League he comes back to. Can he do a job for Manchester United? I don't think we'll pay 25 million for him. He's obviously gone to Bayern Munich. He hasn't quite fitted in. I think whenever Vincent Kompany took over Bayern Munich, he didn't quite fit into the style of football that he wanted to play. But I believe that he was a really good player for Fulham. He used to always cause us lots of problems. He does get quite a few bookings. He is maybe prone to a red card, but that aside, he's a tenacious player. He's a ball winning player, and we already know that he works very well in the Premier League. And I think this could be a very interesting shout. Should we potentially get Gyökeres and Bumo, and we have Cunha, and we want an 8-winning midfielder, I think Palhinha could come in and do it for a couple of seasons. If we got him for loan, maybe with an obligation to buy for less than 20 million, could be worth looking at. Obviously hypotheticals, but what do you good people out there think? Would you like to see Palhinha come over from Bayern Munich and come back into the Premier League and do a job for us for a couple of seasons, or do we have to try and buy someone like an Edison who's in their prime? Because as I said, Palhinha is kind of coming towards the end of his prime years now, so maybe this is a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a risk. But if it was alone with maybe an option to buy, maybe that is something that we could look at. And as I said, he does know the Premier League very well. He has performed very well in the Premier League, and I do like him as a player, and I wouldn't be opposed to this. I think this could be a shrewd move. We will have to make some shrewd moves if we were to spend 60 million on Cunha, 60 million on Mbumo, maybe another around 60 million or so on Gyökeres. We'll have spent a lot of money in the front line. And I do believe that Ruben Amorim does want someone else to come and fit into that midfield. And maybe Palhinha would be one of those kind of stopgaps, but still in his prime enough to come in and do a job. Obviously not going to do a Casemiro. We're not going to bring him in on, 350 grand a week and pay, a crazy fee for him. I think that's obviously something we've got to make sure we avoid. But we could be clever and bring him in at a reasonable price on, sort of reasonable wages. And he's maybe someone who can do a job for us for a couple of years, either while we look to buy a new player in that position, or we try and bring someone through from the academy. But yeah, so that's the news on Palhinha, which I think is a really interesting one and one to keep an eye on. Now, this was some information that was coming out on Rasmus, and this is people close to Rasmus believe that he has everything to lead Manchester United's attack over the years to come: age, talent, work ethic, and constant drive to improve. His camp described Rasmus as a true professional, often one who arrives first and leaves last at training sessions, no record of disciplinary issues, and carries coaches' instructions obediently. I mean, I still believe there's a play in Rasmus. He's 22. He's still very young. All the pressure was on him. He didn't quite work. He hasn't, last year was a dreadful season for him. There's no doubt in that. There's no taking away from it. We do need a striker. I think we need an experienced striker to come in. Now, whether Rasmus stays or not, I suppose is down to Ruben Amorim. Would I like to see him stay? I'd love to see him get another sort of season, but a season where the pressure's off and he's coming off the bench and he's picking up minutes here and there, with this senior striker already in place to be able to sort of move that burden off from him. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. If we do get a reasonable fee from Inter Milan or someone from Italy, because that's where Italy seem to have interest in him, then maybe he will kind of be taken off the books. He'll free himself up. He'll probably go back to Italy and he'll probably do very well. So that's where we are with Højlund there. The next story is still on the striker situation, and Manchester United had held further discussions with all parties involving a potential move for Victor Gyökeres for a deal this week in order to understand the situation. They remain in the race, and they are informed of every development. Now, what we do know is that Al Hilal obviously have lost out on Bruno Fernandes. They've lost out on Victor Osimhen, and now apparently they're looking at Victor Gyökeres as their third potential replacement, to come in, a big name from the European scene to carry their league forward. Will Victor Gyökeres want to do that deal? Obviously, he'll be offered wealth beyond his wildest dreams, but maybe he still has ambitions to do well in Europe. But obviously, Manchester United aren't in Europe, so it will be an interesting one. I'm just really surprised that Paris Saint-Germain haven't come in for him yet, because I think they probably need a striker. They probably should be looking to carry on building on what they already have. I think he'd be a good fit for them. I hope they don't. I hope we get him, because we do need a striker. And regardless of whether he can or can't score the amount of goals that he scored in the Portuguese league. I don't believe he will, because he's going to be playing in a tougher league. I still think if he was to come into the Premier League and get kind of around 15 goals for us alongside Cunha and maybe Mbeumo all getting in and around the same, those are goals that we didn't have last season. So I believe that our forward line would be much stronger should Gyökeres come in. But obviously we're in talks. Let's see what happens this week. The clock's ticking. We really need to get these deals done before we head off on the American tour. And yeah, it's very important that these deals are done quickly. So that's your latest news on Gyökeres. And the last little bit of news that we have is on Jadon Sancho. And apparently Borussia Dortmund have been asked to they want to be kept up to date with developments on Jadon Sancho's future. There are a number of clubs in Europe that are kind of monitoring the situation with Jadon Sancho and Manchester United. Now, obviously, Jadon Sancho was at Dortmund. He came back to Manchester United. He went back to Dortmund, got to a Champions League final, came back to Manchester United, went to Chelsea, then got to another Conference League final, won that one, and now he's coming back to Manchester United, and maybe he's going to go back to Dortmund. So there's a lot of kind of swings and roundabouts with Jadon Sancho. I would love if Dortmund decided to splash out some cash and take him back for 25 million plus the 5 million that maybe Chelsea are going to give us when they send him back, and we pick up a little bit of money. That would be really nice. Because we need to get Jadon Sancho off the books. We don't want him lingering around, because it's another headache for Ruben Amorim and the board to try and get rid of another player that we don't need to, because we've got enough players that need to get taken off the books anyway. So let's hope. I would love Dortmund to come in. Are they going to do this? I'm not sure. Could Jadon Sancho go to the Saudi Pro League? He will get offers, I think. El Hilal are also interested in him, so maybe he'll go there. But I've got a funny feeling, if he wants to follow the money, he'll go to the Saudi Pro League. If he wants to follow football, then maybe he will go back to Dortmund, where he's always been happier. But that's all your latest news on Manchester United. Plenty of it. Still more to come, I can well imagine. Thank you very much for joining me. If you've stuck around to the end, I really, really appreciate it. Please hit the old thumbs up, like button if you could. Please hit the old subscription button. That would massively help me out. Please get your thoughts on anything that I've talked about. Where would you like to see Jadon Sancho go? Do you think he deserves a chance back at Manchester United? Are you on board with sort of Rasmus and what they're saying about him? Or do you think we should try and take maybe a potential fee from an Italian club and get him off the books? But yeah, get your thoughts in, get your comments in below. And yeah, we will do it all over again tomorrow. Thanks. I'll catch you soon.